Davies to the Total Therapy Podcast, a podcast where you accompany me on my journey through traditional Chinese medicine. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, good, thank you. Now we're in the sun. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, excellent. It was great to have you back as usual. So today we're talking about cosmetic acupuncture.
Yep.
Not a subject I know a lot about, so you'll have to bear with me if I get the terminology
Okay.
wrong. Okay, so my first question, Chris, is, because this is a bit random for me, so how does cosmetic acupuncture work and how was it discovered?
Okay, well, for the second part of the question, I'll do first. So the history of it is that in Chinese medicine, you know, the emperors would always have cosmetic, especially their ladies in waiting. So it goes back probably 1,500 years where it's recorded onwards. And also in Japan, about 600-700 years, there's a huge section on that massive expansion upon it where it came into use there. And not just cosmetic acupuncture, gua sha, and other tools that were around at the time, you know, to improve skin tone, skin look. And acupuncture as a whole increases blood supply. That's one of the key things it does. It does lots of different things, but that's one of the key things that you're doing. And when you're doing that increase in blood supply, you're helping oxygen get to where you need by increasing the blood. You're also helping minerals and essential things, you know, fluids move around there. So you're taking down congestion or blockages. You're taking down inflammation by getting fluids going through and moving heat out the system. So some people have a lot of redness and things which can help with. And you're actually stimulating by doing micro damage to the skin. You're stimulating collagen induction and other beneficial healing factors that go through, as well as acupuncture points on the face. So there's some people do cosmetic acupuncture and other people do facial acupuncture, which is slightly different. Facial acupuncture are just the acupuncture points on the face, and a lot of courses do concentrate on that. They're sort of fairly short courses, and that's what they just concentrate on, needling. And so if you're going to see someone, you want to know if they're a facial acupuncturist or cosmetic, because cosmetic will do a lot more. They'll be trained in a lot wider range and they'll be able to do other things rather than just the local acupuncture points, which are very good on their own and strong, but you may have very specific things that you need treating in different ways. So, you know, hopefully it gives you a bit of background as to what it does.
But I ask this every time, right? How do they work out if we stick a needle in here? Like, what come first? Was it the systems of healing ourselves, or was it the cosmetic stuff?
I think if you go back to the beginning of acupuncture, there were lots of theories on how it got going, but one of them was that you did damage to yourself in one area and it healed, got rid of something else. You know, you bang your leg and you say, "Oh, my neck feels better," you know, and that's that. My brother once jumped over a tennis net after a tennis match, caught his leg and landed on his neck, and it sorted his neck problem out. It didn't do damage; it actually sorted his issue out. So, there's lots of ways that it could have come around, but obviously it's a tried and tested method over such a long period because writing in China was so good. You could pass this on to the next generation and explore further and pass everything through. When you don't have good writing systems, it's hard to pass information on correctly and for lots of people to explore something and take it further. So I think that's one of the advantages that acupuncture had, was the Chinese writing system behind it that was advanced, and people could explore these things. But you know, there were points on the body that we use specifically to clear out various things on the face. So there are points for bags under the eyes and other things, and they're distal points. So they're not local to the area, but you're using them on the body. And some organs will have a relationship to the state of your face. So, you know, if someone's really got bad problems, skin problems and other things, it's probably showing more of a state of your internal systems to some extent. You know, if you've got a lot of heat in the system because you're eating the wrong foods, maybe they're adding heat because they're more acidic, or maybe your liver's processing all the time. You know, if you're eating a lot of fats, alcohol, other things like that, emotional heat as well. You've got a lot of emotional problems and stress building heat in the system, then that will show in the face and you might have redness and dry skin. So, you know, you've got to look at the internal systems as well. So cosmetic is, you know, with Chinese theories, you're always looking at the cause of things. You're not trying to treat symptomatically. So, you know, while you might see something on the face, you might look at treating it elsewhere on the body to remove overall underlying causes, as well as treating symptoms locally and possibly causes locally as well. So, you know, there's a big theory behind what you're trying to do with cosmetics. It's not just put a few needles in and away you go, and that's that. I mean, some people do take the viewpoint of that, but you can do so much more with it, than that.
So, because I've got a vision in my head, I've seen the pictures online of all these needles in like a forehead and stuff. But are you
Yeah.
saying then that, say for instance, if I come to you for cosmetic acupuncture right now and I said, oh, I've got these big bags under my eyes and I've got a really wrinkly forehead, would you look at somewhere else in my body then rather than just
Yeah, ideally, with someone who's trained well, they will look at a full diagnosis of your body as if you were coming in for normal acupuncture for health and lifestyle issues, so that you can find out what's going on internally first. Because are these helping or causing some of the issues? And they may not be. There may be certain, you get things, marks, and on the body and the face, because cosmetic isn't just facial; it could be the whole rest of the body as well. You get marks and things that you want to get rid of that may be trauma. So you may have scars and other things just from trips and falls or other things that have gone on. You may have just skin blemishes that have appeared over time, maybe sun damage and other things that are quite local, but there could be underlying systems. So when you come in, if you're a proper cosmetic acupuncturist, you should be looking at the whole body. You should then look at points that will also help the face locally, that are specific points that are known over time to help with specific things. So, like bags under the eyes and other bits that you would put in as well. You also want to look at the face from a point of balancing the face, because if you look at models, they have a symmetrical face. And so, less than 1% of the population is a model and they have symmetrical faces. And so, because they look even, you could argue that is a state of beauty because they're unusual. So if you see someone that's got a symmetrical face, you go, wow, they're beautiful. But you don't pick up why. So it's not the lips were beautiful, the eyes. It was just that they were balanced across the face. And very few of us are balanced. So when you see that, that is a state of beauty. So with your clients, can you do a facial mapping and can you balance off key points on the face and make sure you lift up some and you relax others? So a lot of people, you will use the right side of the face often for expression, and the left doesn't get used as much. The left drops and sags because it's not really going to the gym, and the right is toned and tight because it is going to the gym every day. It's being toned up. So can we relax some of this that may be too tight and maybe too much, and can we tone this up so that they match and become even, and then you get a symmetrical face? That's one aspect out of probably 5 or 6 key aspects of doing this that you must look at, because then people will say, God, you've had something done, you look beautiful, but they won't be able to pin down what it is. It's not specific. It makes you unique in a way. It pulls you to the small minority of people that do have a symmetrical face. So that's another aspect. Then, of course, you can do small things, so wrinkles and small blemishes and things that you want to look at. You can look at those as local issues that you might want to have a go out with various techniques in acupuncture. You might as well want to do some lifting. So you may, have certain parts that are dropping, and you may lift and tonify those and help lift those up. And other places you just want to generally keep in good practice, increase the blood supply, increase oxygen, increase electrons to the system, because really electrons, if they're missing or they get stolen by free radicals in the system, your cells don't have all the electrons that they need to function well, and so you affect the function. And acupuncture, puts in extra electrons from the system into the body and into those areas, so it helps balance those really well. So there's a number of key areas you can look at, and really when you're get a client coming in, you're going through each one of those sections and you're saying, right, what can we alter here, what can we do with this, what can we do with that, and then you're putting a plan together. Some things they might not need, and some people do come in and say, can I just have this one thing? You get clients that walk in sometimes, you think, God, there's so much I could do with this face. I could knock 10 years off, But then you say, well, what do you want doing? And they say, I just want this little thing up here. And you think, no, I could do so much, but it's down to what affects the client, isn't it? We're all emotionally affected by something. If we have a little mark on our face, and when we're at school, we were born with it possibly as a birthmark, or we got it during school, and then people tease us with it at school, it will leave an emotional scar as well. The scar has now an emotional scar. And so you're going, I want to get rid of that because it's affecting me. But actually, no one else might notice it. It's just that people picked on it at the time, So, but you've got to look at what the client's expectations are. What do they want doing? What makes them feel good? Because if they feel good, they're confident. And if they're confident, then they can be themselves. They can be authentic. And as you know from our previous conversations, being authentic self helps you link in and find other people that you can match with. Well, if you're not authentic, you'll have people around you that, will limit what you can say. You'll filter what you can say and limit your growth. And we don't want that.
No, we do not. So, Right, okay, that's blown my mind a little bit. So you just said if someone's got a birthmark, so how does cosmetic acupuncture remove a birthmark? Because I thought that was just pigmentation of the skin, and that was that.
Yeah, but pigmentation can be removed. Obviously, it depends what the birthmark are. You can have lots of variations of birthmarks, and some are genetically there, and there's not much you can do about them. But can you improve the rest of the face to take away from it? Can you improve other areas? And some things like pigmentation, you can break down and remove. And acupuncture and microneedling, which is another tool that you might use as a treatment, and is a brilliant tool, which has lots of needles that go in and out very quickly. Ideally with a what we call a derma pen, so it goes in and out. That's like doing acupuncture very fast. You're doing then hundreds of needles in and out. That really does break up areas that you want to, break down pigmentation, other areas of collection of pigmentation. So you can help reduce these over time, and with some of them you can remove them entirely. But the main sort of a problems that you get in life are sort of blemishes. So acne might fall into that as well. You get aging, which is another category that people may come in with. Skin ages over time, and you might get wrinkles, you might get saggy skin, you might just get the skin just not looking as bright and as healthy, a greyish look sometimes, because the skin cells don't slough off as quickly as they should do when you're, and as quickly as they did when you were 21, 22. So how can we take that back? How can we speed that process up and get them sloughing off so you get that glow again about your skin? So that's one area, is aging. Pores, people sometimes have pores. Usually people who've perhaps had skin issues and messed with the skin too much, using the wrong things and doing too much of it, exfoliation, other things will largen the pores potentially. It's good short term, but over time it can damage them. Dry skin's another one we see in clinic a lot of the time, and redness. Redness in the skin. We're showing there's some heat issue behind this, and that on its own may cause dryness as well. So there's sort of those 5 sort of categories, which then can mix together. You can know with a mixture of things. So they're the ones we end up treating in clinic and seeing a lot. And you can treat them, but there's a lot of different techniques in acupuncture to do various things. So if you've got wrinkles and that's your biggest concern, there are wrinkle techniques that have to be at a very specific angle, and we've done a lot of scientific testing on this to find out the exact angle they should be at. And we've managed to get the exact angle that you should put them in. And when you do that, you can actually see the wrinkle removing during the session, so you get a really great result. So there are lots of different techniques for very specific skin issues, but overall it's about the quality of the skin as a whole as well. So you can really zoom down to very small detail. You can come up to the face, you can come up to the body and say, well, actually the body's not working well, and that's why we're getting these skin issues. So you can look at the whole picture as well. So that's what has you got a lot of advantages over other cosmetic tools out there, because you can do so much, or you can zoom in and do very little.
You said previously that cosmetic acupuncture is not just for the face. So what can cosmetic acupuncture be used for then?
What we do on the course, we do threading of needles, quite long needles, through the fat areas. And we do 2 things about it. We put what's called electroacupuncture through. So we put electric current across it, and that can rip out the fat there and then. So what we do, or what we ask to do with our students, especially when they're doing case studies, is we ask them to draw. You may get a needle, you put another needle in lower down, and between that you draw 5 centimeters between. So you mark off a centimeter at a time, and you do that. You do your electro, and 20 minutes later, that measurement has shrunk. So now you measure it again, and now it's 4.5 centimeters. You've lost a half centimeter instantly. So you can actually see it in real time, in 20 minutes. And one of our students wrote back last week and said, I've been doing it after the course. I can't believe it actually works. It's like, we wouldn't teach it unless it works. It's and there's 2 things going on there. There's removal of fat, but of course, electric current also tones muscle. And so it tightens the muscle up and pulls it, and it removes the fat out. So there's things like that across the stomach area, other areas that you may want to specifically look at again, and it's down to the client again what their needs are. There are other areas where you want to tone and lift, so doing bum lifts where you actually want to tone and lift a cheek. And it's great when you do those, because you can lift one. You can draw a ruler, draw a line across 2 cheeks. You lift one, and then you see the difference of how the line's gone, and the client then really sees how effective it is. So you can do real muscle toning for long periods rather than fat reduction. And then there's other areas like cellulite, back of the legs is the classic area, especially in females. That is a natural process. Any fat below the waist, or not over the organ area, is never dangerous to the health. And women generally store 24% of your fat immediately on the back of the legs first. And that's healthy fat. It's fat that's there in time of, if food is short in time of pregnancy, you've got this reserve that guys don't have. So guys tend to put it on the stomach straight away, and women tend to put it on the back of the legs. But because we don't really go through times of famine, we end up with fat that doesn't get ripped off and then replaced and then ripped off in a cycle. We end up with fat that stays there for 20 years. And so if you go to a cadaver, for instance, and you cut open that area, it smells. It's like cottage cheese. It's horrible to look at. It's yellowish. It's bad fat. It's not good, healthy fat at all. So, removing that cellulite that gives you the dimples can be really good as well. And it could be short-term removal. Maybe people want to go, they've got a wedding and they want, go away on honeymoon, they're going to be on the beach and they want some nice pictures. So you do a short-term removal of the surface layers, or maybe someone wants to rip it all out and really have a refresh where they don't have to do anything for a year with it, so you can do more in-depth treatments. So there's lots of treatments you can do depending on what you want to do. So cosmetic, we try and look at it as a whole. What is it you want? Lifting, fat removal, cellulite reduction, toning. Are there other skin areas? Have you got scars elsewhere on the body you want to reduce and remove? I had a guy came in once, had a big scar down his cheek. And I said to him, we could get rid of that if you want, and take a few sessions. We'll have a look at that. And he said, no, but I've got one on the back of my leg that I could do with doing. And it's like the one you couldn't see he wanted doing, but the one that's on his face, he said, no, that's part of me. And this is the thing, my reaction is I'll jump at that opportunity because we could really help him. But actually, no, he was comfortable with that. His emotional issue was the one at the back of the leg. So again, you've got to be very careful that you don't start doing things that you think, oh, this will help the client. You've got to look after the client's needs and put the client's wants first. And we always have to make sure on the consultation forms we ask them what their expectations are, because some people want different things doing than what you're thinking, and you need to be on the same page before you do something and lift their eyebrows and they say, I don't want my eyebrows lifting. Well, it's too late, they're lifted now. So you've got to make sure they're on the same page, and people have unreal expectations. Like, I'd like to lose 10 years off my age and look 10 years younger with one session. Well, it's not going to happen. It builds up, and it will be cumulative, and it will build up. But one session of anything is not really going to resolve things properly. So
if you had, how many sessions would it take to look 10 years younger, or does that all depend on person?
Well, I don't think you can. I mean, you can take some years off somebody and make someone look younger, or shall we say healthier, is probably a better way. I think if you start looking after yourself and you do treatments and you do homework with cosmeceuticals and things, when you go 10 years in advance, you actually haven't put those 10 years on. So I think you can slow yourself down so that as you're aging, your actual skin isn't. And that's the key thing. To knock 10 years off, I think, is unrealistic on most items. However, can you improve the state that the skin is in and other things, other structures around the skin? Definitely. So you can do lifting, tightening, remove sagging, improve wrinkles, improve collagen, which is one of the key things there. So you can do all these things. But of course, it's how bad is their lifestyle? If their lifestyle, again, the face is showing an internal picture of what's going on internally. And if the body doesn't really care too much about your skin. So when you have vitamin C, you can only take so much into your body, and you need vitamin C to make collagen. Vitamin C and oxygen are the two restrictions on how much collagen you can create. So when you take that vitamin C in, if it's being used up elsewhere in the body because you've got great needs, because your diet's bad, you've got lots of free radicals, and therefore you need an antioxidant like vitamin C to basically lend electrons to the free radicals so it doesn't steal them from you and damage you. And if your diet, your lifestyle is allowing a lot of internal stress where your vitamin C is getting all used up, your skin doesn't have any left. So you need to then put a topical vitamin C on. You need a cosmeceutical every day. And that's where cosmeceuticals can really help change things around. So I think part of it is how bad is your lifestyle. If it's really bad, yes, you can do a lot with it, but you have to change your lifestyle as well. Otherwise, you're fighting against the ongoing effects. Having a few sessions will have some effect, but then after a few weeks, it's going to go back to what it was. It's not going to hold there. And what our job is as really therapists is to try and educate people as to what do they need to do to improve it themselves and get it to a really good place. We can help pull it backwards and improve it to a certain extent, but they definitely, some of the responsibility needs to be with them, that they are needing to do things with their lifestyle, with vitamins, minerals, with possibly cosmeceuticals and having cosmeceuticals there. So there's a lot that goes on with that.
Wow. So that says to me that like acupuncturists and traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, you're always trying to holistically help the client, not just with the issue that they're coming for. You're trying to educate them on their lifestyle too, so that they can continue this on.
Yeah, and you've done our emotional therapy course as well, so you know a lot about the emotions and counselling and other bits like that. So it's when clients come in, if they're very stressed and they're constantly under pressure, obviously sometimes it's hard to ask them to fix that because they may be dealing with something that's really deep, and you can't just ask someone to turn the emotions off. But you can ask certain questions. If someone says, "Oh, it's my job, I'm not happy in it," you can say, "Well, how long have you been in your job?" And they say, "Well, 8 years." And say, "Well, how long have you been unhappy?" And if you say 7, well, the solution is you've got to move your job, haven't you? Unless you see some way of altering it, which you probably don't, because otherwise you'd have done it over 7 years. You're going to have to perhaps move job and alter the job, and that in itself is an important thing to help people with. And that just those questions, we discussed it on the course that you were on, counselling wise. To discuss and say to somebody, are you happy in your job? And they say, "Oh, no." And then you say, "How long have you been in it?" And they say, 10 years. Just that question. And you're not giving any answers. You're not telling them to do something. You've just asked 2 questions, and the solution is in the question, as always. So when you ask those questions, they have a light bulb moment. They have, "Oh my God, I've been unhappy for 10 years or whatever, and then they realize and go, "Actually, I'm going to have to change this." We forget, don't we, to take care of ourselves, and we sometimes get just into the routine of things every day, and that becomes problematic. So try to educate clients on the external factors that affect the body. In Chinese medicine, we're great at diagnosing. Someone comes in, and we can pull those back to a balance or a better situation, a homeostasis, if you want. But we have to then say, right, what's caused this externally as well? We can't just be looking at internal ideas. So where lifestyle is one of the factors, stress, emotions, diet are probably the biggest factors there. There's some other smaller ones, sleep, but you could argue that falls into lifestyle possibly. So, there are some factors that you try and educate clients on and say, let's look at a few external items and see why your body's not quite where it needs to be. And it doesn't mean that they're ill or they've got disease, but it's just not working as efficiently as it could be doing. So there's all those factors. If you're a facial acupuncturist, you probably don't always go to that length. But as a cosmetic acupuncturist, you're always looking at, let's look at everything, because really our job is to make change. Somebody comes in and usually they want to change. If they can't sleep, they want to sleep. If they've got cosmetic issues, then they want them to look better. So how can we make change? Well, by hitting the skin in lots of different ways, by doing distal needling for specific things, so bags under the eyes, by doing local needling for bags under the eyes, by doing acupuncture points around that area for bags under the eyes, by helping the internal system so you don't get bags at all, by changing the lifestyle. Why are you getting bags under the eyes? Well, a lot of time it's dehydration. So let's look at how much water you're drinking. Is it good water? What I mean by that is if you drink water out of a plastic bottle, it doesn't hydrate you. It pumps in about 16 molecules, and it won't get into the cell wall. You can use some of it, but it won't get into the cells themselves, which, of course, you drink the water, you still feel thirsty, you go and buy another one. That's the idea. Great. If you get out of a glass bottle, it only clumps in 8 groups of 8 cells or molecules. So those molecules go into the cells. So you can look at very simple changes to people. And once again, when you look at the face, you're looking at symptoms. What are the causes, and what can we do to change? Can we do cosmeceuticals? Can we do vitamins? Maybe they just need vitamin supplements because for whatever reason, their diet isn't sufficient, or they're on a limited diet and there are certain things they're missing out. Lysine is one of the amino acids that you can miss out if you're vegetarian and you haven't widened your vegetarian diet. And lysine is to deal with all creation of muscle and connective tissue and collagen specifically. So if you're short of lysine, that's going to cause your face to sag and have problems later in life. Early on, you'll deal with it, but later in life, there'll be issues. So, again, if you can find these causes, you can solve the problem. And looking at people's diet, stress, lifestyle, emotions, we can have a look at those, and so maybe we can make some alterations there. Suddenly, with all the other alterations you make, there's a huge change. Clients going for change. Well, let's make a big change. Big change today is a big change tomorrow. Small change today is a tiny change tomorrow. We don't want that. Let's look at it, from a very big global view, and let's really get down to the detail as well if we can.
Yeah. God, it's crazy. Like, this whole thing is everything. It's not just one thing; it's everything. I love it. It's just fascinating.
And not everyone needs everything, do they? It's not that you're going to necessarily. You can look at all these layers all the way through, and go right the way from their lifestyle all the way through to internal systems, to distal points, to local points, to specific techniques, to cosmeceuticals, to vitamins. But not everyone needs all that, but you might just write a program where you go, actually, you do need this because it's not enough in your diet, and you do need these techniques. And so some treatments are very small and specific, and other treatments are much bigger because the problems have been going on for a much longer time, and they've come to a point where they're just unhappy with it, and that's it, and it's time for a change, and your job is to make that change. So
okay, so I'm going to ask it because obviously it's a hot topic out there at the moment. So, what is the difference with using cosmetic acupuncture compared to Botox or fillers?
okay, so Botox, the job of Botox is to stop your muscles from working. So it stops the nerve impulse passing through to the muscle, and the muscle gets stunned for a period, usually around 2 to 3 months. So that means you can't use the muscle, which really helps you briefly if you are using the same emotional faces or signs. So if you constantly pull your, like Gordon Ramsay, the Gordon Ramsay look with the lines on the head, he obviously, when he's swearing, pulls the same face as he's doing it, of total, half angry and half gobsmacked that his person's been so stupid as he would. The way he looks at people and in disbelief almost, he makes a lot of lines, and it's the same expression every time. So if you froze those, that would allow you to pause the muscles for a while and allow the skin to recover. So what happens over time, if you've got the skin and you're constantly breaking it with an expression and pulling it in a way, you're pulling the muscles together, which then crushes the skin. The collagen at the bottom of that, in the bottom of the wrinkle, breaks down. And you're then moving the elastin away as well, especially as you get older. And now you've not got a framework to rebuild collagen and elastin on. So it doesn't bounce back as it does. Young people can pull faces, they let go, and it's perfectly, you can't even tell there's a wrinkle. So there's good collagen there, there's good elastin there, there's good spring back, and the fluids are there as well. The fluids are good. So, the job of Botox is to try and pause that muscle, allow your skin to have a break so that you're not pulling the faces. You're still shouting at people if you're Gordon Ramsay and telling people, but you're not getting the effect. And therefore, the skin will bounce back. You rebuild the collagen, you set up a chain. And if you do it well for a good period, so 6 months onwards, you will allow the skin to recover so well that it will take some time for it to come back again, and the wrinkles to start building up, especially to a deep level, because they don't just appear overnight. They take time to break that collagen down. So, that's one of the things it can help with. Obviously, clients can also try and stop themselves from pulling the same faces again and again, catch themselves. And it's not just during expression, because sometimes people, if you just got a blank face but you shout at somebody, they don't quite get the meaning. Most communication, 5% is verbal. So a lot of the communication is the voice tone, and it's also what they see from your face. 55% is about other signs, your body language, facial expression, and things. So, it's odd when you shout at someone, you've got no facial expression. They're a bit puzzled. They don't know what to do, because 55% is saying don't do anything, and 45% is saying they're really angry, we should be doing something. So there's a confusion that can go on sometimes. So the facial expressions are important, but you do them when you're on your phone. Someone sends you a text and you go, oh, here we go again, a problem at work. And you pull the face while you're doing it. That is not, there's nobody watching you. You don't need to do it then, and if you answer loads of texts, you've got to go into open your text up, and your WhatsApp messages, your emails, everything, different media that comes in. And before you even start, you got to go and relax. Let's not, or let's stretch them out while we're doing this. So pull a funny face while we're doing these, because then we're stretching it out and relaxing it, and getting the wrinkles out. And we're not doing, oh God, here we go, and the wrinkles are all pulling up, because it's not needed for that communication. That type of communication doesn't require that. So you can try and train people, but it's very hard, because the part of us, the part of that expression, part of our soul, and even text messages are emotional. They don't convey emotions very well, but they do make emotion. When you read something, it still does make you happy, sad, angry, etc. So you will still have emotions related. So it's not that easy to turn them off. But the idea of Botox is stun it, stop that from happening, and then away you go. You get a good bounce back. And you can do, Botox. Some people say, well, I'm going to use some Botox for lifting. That's not really true. Botox never lifts. By relaxing a muscle, you drop things. However, you can work on the opposite side of something, and by relaxing one muscle, you can tighten something else. So if you relax the muscles underneath your eyebrow on the outside, the bottom, because they're relaxed and not pulling against the muscles on the top anymore, the eyebrow will naturally lift because you only got one set of muscles pulling upwards. You haven't got the other set pulling downwards and trying to keep the eyebrow in balance. And that you've always got, opposing muscles in a synergistic relationship. Your on your arm, your tricep and bicep are trying to work together to make sure the elbow joint works correctly. If one pulls and the other one doesn't have any opposite reaction, the elbow joint will move to a different position slightly, and then it might grind against the bone. So you're always trying to have this synergistic relationship with muscles. And in Botox, you can do some lifting by doing the opposite muscle. The problems with Botox are it does give you a good lift, and it is effective fairly quickly. So within about 14 days, it settles down, it's had its effect, and you can get really good results with it. But over time, you are stopping the muscles from working. And if you think of somebody maybe in a wheelchair where the legs don't work, they atrophy away, and the legs become really thin, and eventually the muscles are totally wasted. And the same thing with your face. If you're on Botox regularly, every 3 months for 5 10 years, the muscle will waste away. So now you start having bones sticking through. Now you start removing some of the cosmetic advances. And as you get older, your muscles get thinner anyway. The fat layer gets thinner. You start having things stick through. The cheekbones come through more and make you look elderly, make you look withered. People are, if they're ever, if you look at prisoner of war camp pictures, they've lost their whole diet, everything's stripped away. You've got that really gaunt look going on. That can happen as we get older, and we don't want that. We want to keep the muscles, and if anything, tonify them. So with acupuncture, we can do that. The acupuncture is probably one of the few tools in your box that actually lifts. It will lift. If you want to lift your eyebrows, then you use the muscle that actually does the lifting. You don't use Botox as underneath to relax it. That's the sort of it works, but it's not. Again, you're treating the symptom here. You're not treating the cause. You want these to work better. And so you can increase the tone, increase the blood supply, make the muscles more healthy. Therefore, as you go on later in life, you're not losing the muscle mass that you've got as you do with Botox. There's also other issues with Botox. Botox does move around the body, and in 20 minutes, it can be in your brain. There have done testing last few years by the US government that actually Botox wasn't meant to move. It's meant to be in a sort of liquid, a liquid base that stays fairly central. But actually in rats, they found that it moved to the brain in 20 minutes. And therefore, could it move elsewhere around the body, like to the heart, which is a muscle, and it stops muscles from working. So after 10 years, if you have a heart attack, is it because of the Botox? Was that a contributing factor of weakening the heart and then you had a heart attack, or not? And there's some cases going on in the US and test cases currently. And of course, if they're successful, that set precedents that then they can do a class action and bring in 1,000 people in one case. And Botox, I think, would be over or pushed to be limited to perhaps a medical use only. And Botox has other benefits as well. You may have spasms in the hand, contractures. So Dupuytren's contractors, one, and you can relax the muscles so that people can open up their hands again. You may pull a muscle, pulling your back out. I've used it on lower back issues where it's in spasm. You can inject small amounts in and it relaxes the muscle. So for medical purposes, it can be great. Underarm sweating is one that people do. Stop sweating if they've got excessive sweating. So there are some medical uses you can use it for as well that are really great, but probably the majority of it is for cosmetic. But there are some downsides you need to look at. When you come to fillers do exactly what they say on the tin. They fill gaps. So they're not great for wrinkles because wrinkles are usually too small to fill, but they can be good for larger areas like the labial folds. If they're very deep, you could pop them out underneath here, what we call the tear troughs area and the area underneath the eye. You could pop it out and fill it. The biggest problem you've got with fillers is that when you put fillers in, they stretch the skin. So if you want good cheekbones, you can put it in, but it will stretch the skin. Once your filler's gone, the skin will obviously dissipate and just go back to its position, drop. So now you've got loose skin and it will drop down. Now, if you're young, you'll take that up fairly quickly, and the elastin and collagen will get used to its new shape. But as you get older, having fillers, you stretch the skin, and then you need fillers constantly. And then you start looking a bit odd because you have more and more filler, and your face starts changing its shape because you're trying to counter perhaps muscle loss, fat loss, and do it with fillers. And so parts of your face look unnaturally unbalanced because you look gaunt elsewhere, but certain areas you've padded out. So fillers they're a good fix for certain things. Lip filler is one of the biggest things that people do and most common in the marketplace. And lip fillers give you an instant lift there and then. It's done immediately, which people love. You don't have to wait. Even with Botox, you have to wait a few days. Here you got that instant lift and instant volumization if you want that. And so people use it for that. And on the lips are very good, full of blood. They bounce back pretty quick. If you decide to come off filler, they go back to their normal shape and take up the skin. But elsewhere on the body, you got to be wary about stretching it. But they can, the fillers are, if used for the right procedure, they can have really good effects, and they can really, around the jaw area, they can sharpen the jaw and give you a 90-degree jaw angle on guys, especially. It looks very good, immediately. So, there are some benefits of having that. Acupuncture will help tonify muscles and again help remove fat around a joint, so you can sharpen the joints. There's other tools like gua sha that we all train clients in to go and do at home as well. They can use it in the shower and things. Cellulite, remove cellulite all the time very quickly. 30 seconds a day, you'll be gone. So you don't need much. It's about a little and often. So we train our clients to do some of it themselves or with tools. Obviously, acupuncture we do ourselves. But you can streamline the jaw, you can streamline the cheek if you want to, but do it in a healthy way that generally doesn't have too many side effects. But fillers aren't, they're not really the end of the world. I think using them later in life there are problems, but when you're younger, I don't think there's really too many issues. Apart from they do get a bit addictive. That's all. You want bigger and bigger lips because you get used to your lips being normal. And you say, well, that's the normal size. Well, actually, I'd like to go bigger. And that's the problem with all aesthetics. They can become a bit addictive because why would you not want it even better? But sometimes larger and bigger and more change is not better. It's got to match your face. It's got to be balanced. And there are some aestheticians who refuse to treat people that they're going to look odd. And I think that's what needs to be encouraged in that industry, that you've got to be ethically responsible for your clients to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Some surgeons, for instance, on breast surgery will not go above a certain size because they know that's when you get complications. That's when you get errors, issues, side effects and problems. Now, the surgeon could just take the money, and if he gets side effects, they say, well, we told you about them. You signed a disclaimer, hard luck, And so if your boobs go wonky or the middle piece, which secures the breast, tears apart, and they go one's one side and one's stuck here, your fault. You'll have to go and pay for someone to correct that, won't you? But I think in all industries, we need to be more ethical and just say to clients, we're not going into risky areas. We're not going to alter your face so that you do look too odd, even if you want it. Some people always offer that and do anything you want for money. But I think, we've got to encourage the industry to be responsible for itself. And that, if you think someone's having too much of something and it's not in balance with them, that's going to cause some issues, and it could blow back on them. You could end up with people criticizing them behind their back or to their face and saying they look silly. And, people sometimes have the lips done and they say, well, you look like a duck, and that's duck lips as it's called. And, that's obviously hurts you if you've paid a lot of money and had it done and someone's made them too big, it doesn't match. To then get those emotional attacks could be problematic in itself.
But this is what I was going to ask you about. So, cosmetic acupuncture can do mainly the same things. Not probably not as exaggerated.
Not as quickly. It takes a bit more time because we've got to reverse the damage and then rebuild stuff up. So it's not as instant.
Yeah. So, okay, I don't know a lot about this because I don't have it. Friends have it, but I don't know about Botox. So Botox is quite expensive. Lip fillers are quite expensive. So how much would you suggest that the people charge for these cosmetic acupuncture sessions? Is it a lot cheaper or?
It depends what they're doing and how long. Obviously, some sessions, like I say, if someone just wants something very small doing, it doesn't take many sessions to do it. If you just need to lift an eyebrow to balance with the other, and that's your biggest issue, then maybe it's a quick fix. Maybe you've got an eyebrow stuck up because you're always tensing it and it's just locked and spasmed. Well, again, it's a very quick fix, So acupuncture treatments, generally cosmetic treatments, they are cosmetics. If they were a cosmetic acupuncturist as opposed to a facial acupuncturist, they've probably paid a lot for their training, and they've done a lot of work and investment in other things, cosmeceutical training, other bits. The treatment's usually around sort of 85, £95 a treatment. You might get a package because, again, one treatment on its own isn't ideal. So if someone, usually you ask someone to do sort of 6 to 8, but it obviously depends on when they come in, their age, their lifestyle factors, other things. Do they have a good skin routine, or do they not do anything? Sometimes leaving it alone can be fairly good to some extent. Certainly doing the wrong techniques is not always good. So, if the skin's in good shape, you might say, well, actually, you only need 4. I'm going to get you back to where you need to be. And then we could do a maintenance plan where once every month or once every 2 months, we see you and we just keep on top and make sure it's looking good. So it really depends on the person and what you're going to have, like it does with aesthetics, like it does with fillers. Someone comes in and the fillers go after about 3 months, or they reduce, and you need a top up of some sort. Botox the same, they'll reduce down. We would try and take a longer term view that with over a period of time we can put it in a healthier position without side effects, and that we can then increase the overall benefit of the health, where it actually starts doing what you want it to do longer term, and the treatments get less and less. You have bigger spaces between them. So, but with all, unless people are going to really look after themselves and do some of the work themselves, you're always going to have treatments. So.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about gua sha, and also I've seen these little cup things as well, so a bit like cupping. So
Yeah.
how does gua sha and cupping go into cosmetic?
So they're from traditional tools that are used on the body. Gua sha is a scraping tool used on the body, and it's quite superficial. It works in sort of top inch of muscle. And cupping's much deeper. It goes 3.5 inches deep with large cups. So you can really loosen big muscle groups. And the idea is it removes toxins out of the system. It separates the tissues by using suction with cupping. And by separating that, you draw in fluids, blood supply to that area. And then when you take the cups off, it will take it out and reduce the toxins. You also pull through dead blood cells, which can get trapped. So a blood cell that dies in tissue that's tight won't be able to be manipulated out of the tissue. So you sometimes get marks coming up that look like bruising, but scientifically they're not bruising. They are marks coming up. So on the body, that's what we do. On the face, we don't want too many marks, but we want the effects. Gua sha has a unique effect of increasing blood supply by 400%. So no other tool does that. Even acupuncture, even electric acupuncture, which is 200%, doesn't have, can't beat it. So gua sha is a great tool to increase the blood, bring it to the surface, remove toxins because you're increasing the fluids, help deliver oxygen, which is your number one thing for all healing. All transactions in the body that are beneficial to us need oxygen. Disease needs carbon dioxide, ideally. We need oxygen. So by increasing the blood supply, you increase the oxygen and you increase transportation of things that you need, like vitamin C to make collagen and other things. And if you add heat there, you do a little bit of work where you really work the skin quite hard, you'll get a collagen induction, tightening the face as well. So there are other tools to hit it, to look at it from. And cupping, on the face is good. It removes toxins. It pulls on the muscle and tonifies it and stretches the muscle. But when you let go, it's in a better place. And you've increased blood supply to it. Not as much as gua sha, but it's about 200% with cupping. So you still have a good effect overall. And the two work together really well. Gua sha is great at blood supply. It's great at sculpting around things like the jawbone, where you can really get good access, remove some of the cellulite buildup that you have there because some of the fat deposits have stayed there for some time. And if you get a lot of fat deposits pulling down, it then feels full of fluids. And so you get a real sort of jowly look. And to remove those and tighten them up can be really great. And, gua sha, cosmetic gua sha has been in vogue twice in New York, in Vogue, and London Vogue twice as well. So it's a recognised tool that does have huge effects. And a friend of mine was on holiday recently, and they ran into somebody, and they were talking about ages and that, and the wife looked much younger than her age. He said, well, what's the secret? And she said, facial gua sha. She says, I do it every day. So it does work. And if you give the tools to your clients, after 30 days, they come back and they go, look what it's done, it's amazing. So then they don't need to do much. It's 30, maybe a minute a day. You just have to, certain things you're trying to do, you use it. And so a little bit now often really helps, but again, a good cosmetic acupuncturist has other modalities. So hopefully they'll use cosmetic acupuncture, cosmetic cupping, and cupping has some advantages over gua sha. Gua sha is fantastic for wrinkles, fantastic for increasing blood supply and sculpting of the bones. Cupping is good for pulling out toxicity, removing things to the lymph, again, helping support increasing blood supply as well. So they're used in slightly different ways. On the thicker tissues, probably cupping's better. Gua sha is probably better on thinner tissues around the jaw, wrinkle areas on the forehead where you've got very thin tissue, you get great results. So altogether, again, a good cosmetic acupuncture should be pulling in lots of tools. I was saying is you need a lot of tools in your bag, and you need the right tool for the right job. It doesn't mean you can't use cosmetic acupuncture for everything, but maybe actually, even with Botox, maybe Botox for the first 3 months so that they remove the pressure off the skin and they bounce back could be great. So doing that, and then after 3 months of that, you get in with your acupuncture and you tone and tighten everything. There's no reason you can't mix these things together and use the best out of them. Botox long term, I think there's issues with, and fillers long term, especially for older people, I think there can be issues. So or side effects. I think there's no problem using anything short term, even medications. If a doctor puts someone on medications, and we know the side effects of medications on the leaflet, the huge leaflet that folds out into a massive page, short term, do you mind for 2-3 weeks while it cures something? No. Do you have? It's going to be fine, and the side effects are going to be absolutely minimal. But being on a painkiller for 10 years, then that's not going to be great for you. So I think all these things, you can mix them well if you understand what you're doing, but ideally, we've got lots of good tools that have a lot of history and proven results over time that we can use and pull in to be a complete method if we can.
So on that note then, excuse me, are there any downsides to cosmetic acupuncture? Like there is to Botox a little bit, so are there any downsides?
Certain things like obviously Botox has an immediate effect, so your acupuncture will take longer effects, and you've got to do a reversing process first. With Botox or fillers, you can ignore the reversing process, ignore how bad things are, and just do the job, and it will cope with it. So they're powerful tools, but acupuncture does take a bit longer. You're trying to reverse some of the toxicity, and put the skin into a good place first. Then you can start really doing clever things with it. Muscles you can start lifting probably immediately. You can get good effects, and the more that you do, the longer it will last and become more permanent. So it does take more time with acupuncture, which some people will see as a downside. Of course, the upside of that is holistic. There are no sort of negative effects. Physically, downsides are you might get some bruising, especially if you sort of go where we obviously try and avoid veins all the time, but sometimes you just can't see them, and sometimes the capillaries are tiny. So underneath the eyes, around, especially the side of the eyes, there's a lot of veins that can be hidden under there that you can't see well. And if you catch them, then you might get some bruising. But of course, hopefully bruising is temporary. It doesn't last very long. A lot of the time, an acupuncture can tell if there's going to be a bruise because you put it in the vein and you get some blood pouring out into underneath the skin. You get a bit of a bulge, and you can tell that's going to be a bruise, and you can immediately counter the effect and push 90% of the blood back into the vein because veins are low pressure. So we've got techniques with spoons, cold spoons, which reduce the blood supply and shrink the blood supply down, and make the capillary collapse on itself and minimize so the blood doesn't come out anymore. And we can do some what's called rolling of cotton wool over it, so you actually push the blood back in and disperse the rest. You'll still get a bruise, but it's minimized, and hopefully it's nice and light, and again with a bit of makeup or minimal makeup ideally, so you're not got any parabens or toxicity in there. You can cover things up briefly. But again, you may choose to do them, on a Friday, a Thursday night, Friday, so that maybe people aren't going into work the next day. They're working from home these days, as often happens. And so if there's a bruise or something, over the weekend, they're not necessarily doing anything, it's fine and there's no issues. So bruising is probably your biggest downside, and of course no one likes a bruise, especially if it spreads a little bit. So you're very careful about where you do your points, and there's certain points on the face, like in the middle of the eyebrow, there's a great acupuncture point here, but slightly lower there's a vein, an artery really, a small artery which comes through a little hole in the bone or foramen and travels through to the eyelid, and if you puncture that, you get a huge black bruise over the eyebrow, and it goes to the sinuses and moves to the other side as well. So it looks like you've really been hit by somebody. So we do spread this again with all acupuncture. There's always a way of making it safe. So the great thing with the eyebrows, you can lift it up. So you've removed it from the place where it's meant to be. You can put your needle in and drop it back down. So you never puncture it, and you can aim in the top half of the eyebrow where it's safe. Stay away from the middle to lower part. So you can still at the acupuncture point, still have the effect of lifting the eyebrow, still doing the benefits, but it's totally safe if you know what you're doing. And that's why you've got to look for a good course that people really understand what makes something safe. You've got to understand the structures of the skin, the anatomy, what the problems are. So I think we can minimize the majority, but the one that does come up all the time, and we do warn people, there may be some bruising. If you're having a lot of needles in, and it's not unusual at times to have 70, 80 needles in your face, which sounds a lot, but if you think of wrinkles, they're very small needles going in, and you need a few to run the whole wrinkle. If you've got 4 wrinkles and they go across your whole head, you might have 20 in there. So, and you've done acupuncture points, you've done balancing, all these different ways of looking and increasing the benefits of beauty as a whole, or the making yourself look more healthy as a whole, so you look more beautiful and energized. And there's lots of different techniques, so you end up with a lot of different needles. Not all are doing the same thing. There's probably 5 categories it falls into. So you can have a lot of needles in, and of course, at some point you're going to hit a vein. It's not if it's when, more than anything else. Most bruising, I say, is very minor though. On the cheeks and other things, you don't really see it too much, and it goes within an hour or two. It's things where the skin is thinner, blood supply is less, you get the bruise, and it's harder for the body to clear it out. So around the eyes, bit over the eyebrows, underneath the eyes, they're the sort of areas where you worry more about bruising. You really try and take great care there.
Brilliant. So then, my last question, because I need to process all of this. What advice would you give to anybody who may be out there, they're an acupuncturist and they want to offer cosmetic acupuncture to their clients? What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's a great addition, whether you're aesthetics, and so you're more perhaps on the Botox fillers side, or whether you're more actually want to be more holistic, and so you want to expand upon and maybe you already do some gua sha or other things that may be helping. It's a great addition. The fact that you can look at the body in so many different ways with acupuncture and treat so many different ways, all making a huge change when you put together rather than just a small local change. That is really the effect. Acupuncture is flexible, it's in depth, it does a multitude of things. When you just stick a needle in, it's not just doing one thing, it's doing a whole cascade of different things to the body that's increasing it. If you put a needle in any acupuncture point in the body, it increases your oxygen in your body overall. So if you get one of those oxygen meters that are really cheap, put on the end of your finger, and it says about 96%, which for a lot of people it does, 96, 97. If you put a needle in anywhere on the body, any acupuncture combination of needles on the body, that would go up to 99 to 100% by the end of the treatment, by 20, 30 minutes. So the needle, although it's not local, has improved oxygen throughout the whole body. Well, that on its own is an increase in health. And so if you're having acupuncture, even just locally on the face, the fact that it improves oxygen to the rest of the body is actually helping detox the whole rest of the body and move the rest of the body in a much more beneficial way. So that increases health, and therefore your skin looks better partially because of the overall effect, not just the local effect. So there's all these effects with acupuncture. It is a flexible tool. So if you're doing very specific things, I would bring it in no matter what, even if you just want to learn it for very lifting, instant lifts of muscles and tone and other things. Because you can do so much with it, you can pick out of all the tools of acupuncture, you can pick out exactly what you want. So in my clinic, I see a lot of this client, I want to do this very specific thing. You can take those bits out of it and just use those. You can use the whole thing, get a really big image and change someone's life and the way they look. And literally, you can pull years off their life over a period of time. So, I would definitely advise anyone to do it. If you're into it, definitely go for it. Don't pick a facial acupuncture course though, because although some benefits there, it's not the complete picture. There's so much more you can do. You're doing about 20%, if not less, of what you could really do with a cosmetic acupuncture. So you want a good cosmetic acupuncture that's usually run over 2 or 3 days as opposed to a day, and really goes into some depth, so they really cover all the subjects. Then you can really alter your clinic.
Cool, because I think from what you said about the Botox, trials that's going on in the US at the moment, and cosmetic acupuncture being in vogue in the US and in London, I think people should jump on the bandwagon now, because if Botox does get taken off the shelves, you're going to be very busy.
Yeah, and I think even if it doesn't, Botox will always be around. But again, it could be, you could mix it in with your cosmetic. There's no reason. If I've got someone really bad with wrinkles, well, is one set of Botox going to be totally non-holistic to them? No, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. We are talking about tiny amounts of Botox. They're so small, and that's one of the manufacturing problems. How to keep it consistent when the amount of Botox you're using is tiny. So for one treatment, and I've done this with some clients, their faces, they have been a Gordon Ramsay look, and it's like, actually, I'm going to put Botox in for 3 months. And 1 month into it, it'll last about 3 months. 1 month in, we'll start doing acupuncture, because that also replace the Botox. So, you can mix it and I'd rather not use it if possible, but if I'm quite happy to as well, mix it with other things. It's like someone would come with acne on the face, really bad acne. Well, sunbeds aren't great for you. They damage the DNA, damage the collagen. But I'm going to send them a sunbed for 4 weeks, because it will kill all the acne bacteria right inside the skin very quickly. Yeah, and we do need some sunlight, no matter what. We are built on sunlight partially, and we get a lot of electrons from the sun, which we absorb and use as an antioxidant. And so we are. Some people argue we're driven by sunlight, and to some extent that is entirely true. Part of us is. Without those electrons from the sun, we couldn't make our energy ATP. So we do need sunlight, and there are benefits to sunlight as well. When you get sun for 15 minutes or longer on your body, you do create something called cholesterol sulfate, which cancels out the bad cholesterol in your system. So, you got cholesterol, you need sunlight. You'll find it will alter your cholesterol status. I went for a cholesterol check a few years ago, and it was 2 points, something ridiculously low. And she said, "So what is it you're doing?" And I said, "Sunlight and diet. That's it." So you can alter things very easily. So I think people will perhaps say, "Oh, he's advertising to go on a sunbed," but it's a less invasive than perhaps using Dermapen and do multiple treatments and trying to kill it off. I'm not using medication. It's sunlight. It's coming in, and if as long as they don't do too much to damage the face and damage the collagen, they're just having a few sessions, especially if they're younger, which is when acne is more around, it's going to have little effect on them. But it will do the job I need, which is kill off all the acne, bacteria, and then I can work well, and I can make sure we don't get back to that stage. So you can mix it with a lot of other things, and you have to think outside the box and be flexible. Some people might say, "Well, I don't want to do sunbeds for my acne clients," but you have to say ethically again, what's best for your client. If you argue, do I put my personal opinion on my client and say, "No, you're not going to sunbeds because I don't believe in them," or do I actually say what's best for you is actually a sunbed, even though I hate to say it, and that's it. And I do hate to say it, but I will use it because it's the best thing for the client. So I think whatever people are doing, aesthetics, they're doing acupuncture, they're doing non-acupuncture, and they're doing other things, or maybe they're doing just general therapies, massage, and they want to get into it. It's a great intro. You can do so much with it and have so many beneficial effects. That's it really. I would say though, perhaps you've got to commit to it. The training, if you do a full cosmetic training, there's a lot to learn, as you've seen today. There's a lot of different things we can do. To learn all those techniques and all those things takes a bit of practice. You've got to go out, you've got to use it, you've got to do it. If you just want a little bolt-on tool, well, maybe a facial acupuncture course that's one day might help you with a few bits and help improve. But you can, with cosmetic acupuncture, you do so much. It's a great tool. But again, it's flexible. You can mix it. So anyone who's interested in going into it, definitely go for it. It will change your clinic entirely. And people are starting to move away from things like fillers and Botox. Certainly older people don't really do too much fillers because it exaggerates their look too much, and now it looks odd. So they want a natural look, but they want a healthy natural look. So cosmetics probably better for old people. Younger people that do want to really, alter their features and perhaps do want to advertise that they've had something, because it's, years ago, people didn't want to have a tan because a tan showed you worked in the fields. Then people wanted a tan because then it showed you had money to go on holiday. So it advertised your luxurious lifestyle. Then people, now again, do you want a tan? Do you not want a tan? It's almost going back to not having a tan again. There's things like with when you have teeth whitening or lips, people want them excessively sometimes. Make them as white as they can, my teeth, because even if it stand out, people know I've got the money to spend on them. It's a can be a status symbol. And sometimes with lips, well, if you want that, I would say go for the fillers and Botox. Really, because it exaggerates the effect. And you want that effect, well, you get it instantly. So again, there's a place for all these things. I think it's not the one is necessarily bad. I think with all medication, there are some long-term side effects you always need to look at with the liver, generally with chemicals in the body and medicines in the body. But there are also other side effects that we talked about with Botox and fillers. Do more holistic can be better. So I think people are moving away from medications, things that could be bad for them, and trying to look for things that are more healthy. So I think the market's opening up, and cosmetics is a new area of that, where you hear lots of people, I'm not going to the doctor, or he gave me this prescription, I'm not going to have these tablets because I've read the side effects. Lots of people are investigating now and doing their homework on what they're having. And that's great, but it's now actually starting to work in the cosmetic world as well, where people are saying, actually, I have heard about this and that, and so I'm going to go for some more holistic. So it's a great time, growth time now for cosmetic acupuncture. But I would say be committed. If it's something you just want to dabble in, do a facial acupuncture course that just one day does the points. That will help you a little bit and do some good things. But if you really invest, you really want to make change, you really want another string to your bow and a separate revenue stream to your clinic of people who do want this, then definitely go for it.
Thank you so much, Chris, for all your knowledge on this subject. You will be back because I've got a topic in mind for you.
Oh, good. Gladly, anytime.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for all your help today. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Fantastic. See you soon.